is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco. Now, your hosts, Vach Lombardi, Nick Harris, Bobby Belt, Tommy Yarish, and Kyle Yeomans.
Today is Thursday, January 8th, 2026, and we are officially 105 days away from the NFL Draft in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Welcome in, everybody, to the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. Today, we're talking defense with Vach Lombardi, Nick Harris, Tommy Yarish, Bobby Belt with Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Welcome in, everybody. We were just having an off-air conversation, kind of spilled over a little bit into on-air stuff of where we are today, getting things from a board standpoint, from a scouting report standpoint. It's still hard to even see what we're going to look at because we don't know what the defensive coordinator is going to be for Dallas moving forward. But I think we can all kind of say we're moving in the right direction. And for those that listened on Tuesday to our first episode, that was laying the groundwork. Today, we're going to get into some scouting reports, and I'm really excited about this episode. Nick, we got to stay away from day three guys today.
Please.
Sounds good?
Speak for yourselves.
I don't need your FCS corner or safety or whatever you put in the group message.
The FCS corner that he watched when he was in like 10th grade and covered it somewhere. And
see, man, this is the thing. We all watch guys in passing, so we know people. You know what I mean? Like, we know names. Mm-hmm. I don't feel great coming on here if I haven't watched a guy. You know what I mean? Because if I say something wrong, that's like a million people that just saw Vach say something crazy that may not be true. You know what I mean? So when y'all was talking about safeties yesterday, I normally hate safety, so I don't even talk about them. I just sit back and let y'all talk. But the one thing, if Kyle would have went to me, hey, Vach, what you think about that fifth round cat Nick just talked about? I wouldn't have an answer for you, sir, because I ain't there.
See, and that's why I wouldn't ask you that question, because I understand.
But let me tell you something so fly, what I love the most.
Oh, no.
Bobby just talked about Cassius Howard, right? Uh-huh. He smiled real big. So now we get to have a smile contest about how much we like Cassius Howard for real and have an extended conversation about how much we like it. That's what I'm saying.
Cassius Howard from?
Texas A&M, Edge from Texas. I mean, from Texas A&M, yeah.
We got to get into that sort of habit as well, saying schools with the name so that way everybody at home can follow along. We're going to talk about positions of need for Dallas, what type of scenarios you could see depending on where Green Bay's pick ends up in that second selection in the first round, and then we're going to continue moving forward as well, talking about impact position groups and where you would use those picks in the first round overall, because you got to find a way to fill out this defense in multiple areas. But I want to start with edge rusher, just because this was a team that really struggled to get pressure at any point in time. And Tommy, I'm going to start with you. Some of the top edge rushers, rattle off the names and who's your favorite of the bunch so far.
Yeah, my favorite of the bunch right now is David Bailey, the defensive end from Texas Tech, 6'3", 250. He's just a game wrecker, man. And I think when he came out of the portal from Stanford to Texas Tech this year, they built a defense around their defensive line. Him and Romello Height, the other edge rusher on the other side, and then Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker in the middle of it all. That kind of core is what helped Texas Tech make the college football playoff. And it's his explosiveness off the line is really good. He can win with speed. He can win with power. He's good bend. More often than not, he just kind of finds ways to crash the backfield, but he still has the sack production to back it up. Has a knack for knocking the ball free, forcing fumbles. Brian Schottenheimer was talking about yesterday how atrocious this team was with turnovers in 2025. So I think he fits a lot of what they're looking for. Some other guys, like I've got Ruben Bain behind him, obviously incredibly powerful player. You can see him reset the line of scrimmage. And I've seen a lot of talk about him on social media about, okay, do you maybe move him inside to defensive tackle? I think the wider that you push him out, the better he is, in my opinion. I think that he has a little bit more athleticism than what shows you, and I'm happy to discuss disagreements with that, but I think he's a little bit more athletic than what people give him credit for. He's going to be a really good player, I feel like.
Let me ask you this, Tommy. Why do you have Bain second and Bailey first? What is it about Bailey that's first and Bain second?
I like Bailey's quickness off the line. I think that he just has a pop to him when he gets off the line of scrimmage and he gets off the ball, and I think that he's just a gritty player who is consistently in the backfield. The sack production backs it up, like I said. and he makes the smart plays. He's able to open things up for his teammates. I mean, you saw they had a big defensive tackle there in the middle too with Texas Tech. I'm sure we'll talk about him later. And then Romello Height on the other side. It just opened up so many things, and it seemed like no matter what teams threw at him, he's going to find a way to make his way into the backfield. I just think he had more of an impact on more games than Bain did this year.
Let me say this. I don't quite disagree. Like, I don't hate that you have him first, right? 16 sacks, 29 hits, 60 pressures. That's stupid. I do have Bain first, though. And where I do kind of disagree with you is that the better he gets, the wider that you line him up. You know, we see in the postseason, right? He'll line up in that wide 9 and beat the hell out of people. I think he's great there. I also think Bain being like 270, 280 something, strong as hell, I think he can get active inside. Now, I think he can do both. He's versatile enough to do both, and he's also a demon in the run game, which is maybe why I give him a little bit more of an edge. But my smallest disagreement there, because even whether he's spinning inside or ripping inside or just whatever, I think that when he gets to the league, somebody's going to be like, hey, big fella, line up in B-gap and whoop some feet. Now, Nick Harris nodded his head when you said that as well. You kind of
Yeah, I think I like him as more of like a 5-tech type guy. I think you could throw him out, you know, as your standard defensive end, especially in run game stuff. I just like the quickness and the athleticism more from that 5-tech spot with him, with that kind of frame than I maybe would on the outside when you can get more of a speed guy on the outside. That's just me philosophy-wise, though, and I don't think there's a wrong answer, actually. I don't think that, you know, it depends on teams and how they like to fit personnel. Me, personally, I'm more of a, hey, let's get the athletic 250-pound guy on the outside, and if we have a 275 guy that can still, like Voch loves to say, whoop feet, we'll put him at the 5-tech and let him roll.
Time ain't wrong, though, boy. That wide dime, Bain be going crazy. Go ahead.
He does.
Where do you feel like Dallas would lean, and Bobby, I'll kind of defer to you there, because they have Donovan Ezraku as that athletic guy on the outside, not necessarily the biggest body in the room. Do they go with somebody else that can be the same on the opposite side, or you want a bigger body on the opposite side to help with pass rush or help with run defense in one facet?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's going to obviously depend on who ends up here as the defensive coordinator and how they want to approach things. You know, Will McClay always does a really good job of, whenever there's coaching changes, making sure to get those coaches in front of personnel people and like, hey, let's establish what you guys need and what you guys like and what you're looking for. And so I think being able to have those discussions and figure out, somebody may come in here and look at this defensive line or look at the you know, resources that they have, and they can go, all right, we can use two kind of twitchier, explosive, like small ones, because we're going to run with 5 defensive line looks. They do like the idea of Clark, Odigizua, and Quinnen together. Maybe they would rather just have that defensive tackle group more as a rotation and play 4 down linemen like typically, and you want to have somebody who's more of like a bigger edge setter on the other side. So I think a lot of that's just going to depend on how they look at the new defensive coordinator. But man, these are the edge rushers at the top this year so far that I've seen. They're all like really unique in different ways. Like I don't feel like there's any just prototypical, like, all right, this is the size you want. Then look, they've got bend and athleticism. Like everybody's got something where it's like, well, is this exactly what makes them fit into the NFL mold or what teams want? And so Bain is obviously a guy who, I think the guy that he kind of reminds me of, he's more explosive. He's a higher upside guy, but he kind of reminds me of what Carl Lawson was coming out of school years ago, where he was just a smaller guy, got dinged for that, but he was just thick, strong, had a ton of tools in there. And Bain's more explosive to me than Carl Lawson was. But that's the kind of play that I think he can be. And I think his length is a little better than Lawson's was. Lawson had really short arms.
He got T-Rex arms.
Yeah.
And the thing with Bain, too, is what I put down here is, and you saw this last week in the college football playoff game when they played Ohio State, and I'm sure you might see it tonight against Ole Miss. The longer the game goes on, his size and his power just starts to wear on these tackles. You might see early in the game that maybe a longer arm guy or a bigger tackle can stand him up a little bit, but if you're going up against him time after time after time, that power is going to start to wear down on you. So that's certainly something that I like with him too.
Not to be a hot take artist, but I do have a hot take here. I don't think there's a top 10 edge in this class. I'm not sold completely on any edge being top 10. And the case for Ruben Bain is I want to see the consistent production out of him. You know, over the course of the last 3 games, you talk about the quarterfinal against Ohio State, Oklahoma State, could you imagine? Texas A&M in the first round game, and then Pitt in the last game of the regular season. You have 5.5 sacks there. In the previous 11 games, you had 3. There was a 5-game stretch where he only had 1 tackle per game. I want to see the consistent production out of him. And sure, like looking at tackles and stats, you don't get the whole whole story. Go back and look at those games, and there's stuff in the run game that he is just not as efficient in against Louisville and Stanford that he was in previous weeks of the season. And you talk about that 5-game stretch, they lost 2 games in that stretch, and there was a lot of attention dedicated toward Ruben Bain. I need to see Ruben Bain wreck games when offensive coordinators focus on him. The same thing can be said for Cassius Howell. The Cassius Howell production is very scattered, but when he shows up out of Texas A&M, it is very scattered. When he shows up, my God, like he's a game wrecker too, and I think he would have top 15 potential. I want to see these guys have consistent production to warrant the top 10 pick. David Bailey, I'm a fan of too. I have him right outside of that top 10. I don't think there's a top 10 edge in this class right now today. Is
there a top 12 edge in this class?
So
I don't know.
kind of on that idea. So you're talking about you would not end up in your top 10 stack.
Probably not. Probably. I don't think there's a top 10 pick. Personally.
Well, I was going to say, how much do you tweak that versus obviously people always talk about quarterbacks go a little higher.
Yeah.
You may have a running back.
Somebody will get picked top 10. Don't get me wrong.
Or would you ever envision yourself if you were an edge hungry team sitting at 9 going I may have somebody a little higher, but he is good enough and it's a premium position that I will take him in the top 10.
It depends.
Any of them?
I would take a Caleb Downs over these edges.
Okay. I mean, I would too.
Caleb Downs, safety
out of Ohio State. I'm sorry. We're
just getting into it.
We're going to get there.
Getting into it.
Which I found out this morning. Apparently, this is common known knowledge that he's the brother of Josh Downs. I just did not know that for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
I found that out like 2 weeks ago.
I completely missed that. And I was like, what? Taylor Rooks used to babysit them? I was like, you were
watching those G5 safeties.
Right. Right. Yeah, Taylor Rooks used to babysit them as kids. I was like, they were destined for greatness.
Yeah, Voch, this is common knowledge, dude. Pick up.
I don't be keeping. I watch film and move on, man. I don't be watching people.
Who babysat Mason Taylor?
Take your notes.
Nick, let me ask you a question, man. So you were
I had peanut butter this morning.
So hey.
We're talking about Tyler Booker.
Nah, Nick, you said you ain't got no top 10 picks in this one. You wouldn't put David Bailey up there.
Yeah.
Nick, let me ask you, man. You turning red. Nick, where would you put David Bailey versus a guy like Abdul Carter or Michael Williams from last year?
I would have had Abdul Carter higher. I would have had Michael.
You liked Michael?
I liked Michael. I didn't have him top 10. I didn't have him top 10 though.
I guess this is one of the things that we'll have to get into over the course of the next few minutes. Is Arvell Reese an edge to you, or is he linebacker?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. I need to see how he tests. I want to see how he tests before going forward with that.
Reese out of?
Arvell Reese out of Ohio State.
The Ohio State.
Just making sure. When it comes to linebackers, just kind of moving into that area as well, kind of a good transition. That's a guy who you could have at linebacker, who you could have at edge rusher. Are there any linebackers that could go inside, let's say, the top 15, top first 25 picks where the Cowboys have those 2 selections?
You said linebacker?
At linebacker.
Yeah, I think I love this linebacker class. I really do.
It's a different thought process than you maybe had at edge rusher.
Correct.
Don't love the edge rusher class.
Please.
Correct. Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles out of Ohio State and C.J. Allen out of Georgia. I think all 3 of those guys could potentially be top 12 guys. I love all 3 of them. I'd be completely fine with any 3 of them at 12. I really would. I think C.J. Allen is my favorite as of today, but it's very early. I'm a big C.J. Allen guy, but we'll see as time goes along.
If you're talking about guys that can come in and be NFL starters instantly, I don't know that there's many in the first round at any position that I feel as good about as C.J. Allen.
Yeah.
I feel like C.J. Allen, that's an NFL linebacker tomorrow. And so look,
Georgia.
Reese Styles, Georgia. Reese and Styles from Ohio State. They both are both young, both super high upside, both athletic freaks, both still, I think, raw and still kind of figuring some things out. I like both of their instincts. I think both of them are very instinctual players, but there's just still some of it where you can see all right, there's the youth with them, whether it just be diagnosing or some of the things that they do. But I think Reese Styles definitely go in the top 15. Yeah. Allen, I guess it just kind of depends. Yeah. He's one who you hear checks a lot of boxes in terms of just being, that's a future captain, that's high football character, that's super competitive. It honestly sounds almost like a little bit of the linebacker version of the way people talked about Booker last year.
Yeah, he makes a lot of sense for this team.
Yeah.
Is it really one of those cases where there's 3 guys? Because I keep hearing Reese and Styles from Ohio State, C.J. Allen from Georgia, and all 3 of those guys are significant linebacker help immediately. And then there's a gap until the next couple of guys. Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas, Torian York out of Texas A&M, some of these other names along the way. Is it 3 guys at the top of this class and then kind of a gap to the next group?
I would say yes. I think the guy who has the potential to get back into that group is Anthony Hill. He didn't have
just
a great
size, speed.
He didn't have a great 2025 season. Injury really got in the way of that, and the production just didn't match what he did in 2024. But I think if he could test well, like you said, and kind of show some edge ability as well, I think if he could show some of that hybrid ability, I think he can sneak back into the top 20 conversation. But, it also wouldn't surprise me if he's one of the first names on the board on day 2, just because of a lot of the concerns that he did that are stemming from this past season with him at Texas.
Let me ask y'all a question about C.J. Allen. How do y'all think he's going to run and test and things like that? Because I kind of watch all these guys together, and when you watch Sonny, you go, all right, Sonny moves really well, and he's flying over there. And I don't think CJ moves as well as him, but I don't have a great deal for how CJ moves. What I love about CJ is how physical he is and how he's thumping down there with linemen. He's so physical, like he wears down on these teams. He knock folk out. But when I watch Styles, I see more of the backward stuff, the coverage stuff, the smart back there stuff. Do y'all think C.J. Allen's going to run as well as those guys? I don't think so.
No, I don't. I think you hit the nail on the head. Remember with Sonny Styles, too, the linebacker out of Ohio State, he's a former safety, so they moved him down to linebacker. So he's still kind of learning how to play this position, which is why I think he has such high upside at this spot. You see some of the tape that he puts out. I was watching the Miami game from last week. I thought he played really well. He's going to have his misses here and there more often. It's maybe not more often than not, but he's going to have his misses here and there, but he's still a really good player. What I think with Allen, I think Nick made the good point of it, was this is a guy who, as a true linebacker, has started 3 years in the SEC at a place like Georgia where, they just crank out good linebackers. I know you scout the player, not the helmet, but nonetheless, I think that's important to recognize. And yes, that's for how physical he plays in the run game. He's not going to be the great east to west mover and coverage guy at the linebacker spot, but he's going to be able to diagnose things and, see the field pretty well when it comes to playing the linebacker position, which is why I think, too, as well, like they were saying, this guy would be a good fit for Dallas.
He's not as undersized for the position as this guy was, but if you want to talk about like people talking about athleticism, like, all right, well, is he the top end and different things like that? But he's really like fast mental processor and really high IQ football player. He is sort of a like linebacker version in that sense of like what Malachi Starks was last year, which Georgia's had a couple of these guys over the years where it's like there's a question about, all right, is this like a top-end athlete or something like that versus like just clearly a super high IQ player that had been in Kirby Smart's system? And then they'll still crank out the Michael Williams types. But I look at C.J. Allen, and I think if you want to talk about safe players who it's, hey, I know that guy, what he's going to be, I feel like C.J. Allen, Caleb Downs from Ohio State, like these are the kind of guys on defense that I look at and I say, I'm really confident that that's going to be an NFL-level starter at the very minimum.
Just to put a number to your film study, there's some projections on what they would run, those 3. Sonny Styles is anywhere from a 4.47 to a 4.5 flat. Arvell Reese, both these guys out of Ohio State, anywhere from a 4.5 flat to a 4.53. And then C.J. Allen is 4.55 and above in all these projections. So it's not by a lot, but there is a significant difference between the two or between the 3 guys and where C.J. Allen would go. But I think I'm with you in terms of the recognition, the first step quickness, and the ability to get downhill. That's what Georgia did with C.J. Allen all year long. And they were a different defense at different times in the year, but when they got better as the season went on, it was because C.J. Allen was playing.
I will say of the 3, C.J. Allen was the only state qualifier in high school for track and field, and it was in the state of Georgia, really good track state. So something to keep in mind moving forward as far as verified athleticism. He at least has that in his background.
I want to get to corners and safeties in the 3rd segment, so we're going to take a break, go to Twitter on the 20 when we come back with more of the draft show. Already hit some edge rushers, already hit some linebackers. It's a defensive-heavy episode here on this episode number 2 of the draft show this year. We'll be back with Twitter on the 20 in a matter of moments.
Hey.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
How about them Cowboys? And how about them Jimmy Dean breakfast bowls? Keep your game day celebrations going with real eggs, potatoes, cheese, and our savory Jimmy Dean sausage. And with 22 grams of protein per serving, you'll have enough energy to power you from early morning to the final whistle. The no-hassle, ready-in-minutes prep makes it easy. Just heat, eat, and cheer on those Cowboys. Get yours today. Jimmy Dean brand is proud to be the official protein of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. This segment is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. Also want to remind you, Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award presented by Nationwide recognizes NFL players who have exhibited excellence on the field and whose passion to impact lives extends beyond the game. Help Dallas Cowboys club winner Solomon Thomas raise funds for the defensive line by casting your vote in the charity challenge vote at NFL.com/Man of the Year or tweet using the hashtag WPMOY challenge. Thanks for tuning in today. The Draft Show episode number 2. Chris Beam, it's time for some
Twitter on the 20.
Twitter on the 20. Ashley's going to get us started. How deep is this edge class? I don't want the Cowboys to miss out. We just mentioned some of the top names. Nick, I'm going to defer to you. Where is the sweet spot for edge rusher? If you don't think it's the high-end names, is there at least some depth that Dallas can take advantage of?
Yeah, I think I do like this second first-round pick and kind of the range that they would be in to potentially swing on another edge, or if they end up trading out of that second first-round pick and moving back a few spots. I just think there's going to be some guys in the middle there. I'll throw out a few. Cassius Howell from Texas A&M, we've already mentioned him a little bit. I think he ends up being in the back end of that first round, potentially top end of the second because of those consistent production concerns. But, man, when he shows up, he shows up. And that's going to be one of the more intriguing guys to follow over the course of the process. We've talked about TJ Parker a little bit out of Clemson. Y'all are convincing me to go back and watch a little bit more of TJ Parker though. And then Young Concrete, Mateo Uiagalelei out of Oregon. Out of Oregon, Young Concrete. Yeah, he's got music out there. Yep.
I've just been burned by that. I'm not drafting it.
Rappers.
Hey, do you like Kalen Carson?
I'm just thinking of the vibes.
Yeah, definitely not a second-round pick, right? But Mateo Uiagalelei, big physical defensive end out of Oregon. I think he can give you some stuff in the run game and in pass rush as well. And, man, he was a game wrecker in the what game was that? I believe it was against it was this most recent one against Texas Tech. Had the strip sack, and that allowed them to get set up on the goal line to really put that game away. I think in that 22 to 38 range, I think there's going to be quite a few that come off the board, and I think you can find a good hit in those for sure.
Height,
and I'm going to throw Romello Height. I'm going to also throw Anthony Hill in there just because I think he could factor himself into the edge conversation by the end of the day.
Anything when it gets to the 4th round, 5th round that's even going to make an impact or sniff making an impact at that point?
I like Anthony Lucas out of USC, Jayshon Barham out of Michigan, Akeem Mesidor out of Miami. I think he's going to get knocked for some reasons that I do not agree with. And Akeem Mesidor, I think, is potentially one of the more underrated edges in this class right now, out of Miami.
What is he going to get knocked for?
He's going to get knocked for arm length. He's going to get knocked for size, and also he's like 25 years old. So he is originally from Canada and made his way to University of Miami, and he's really shined this year for the Hurricanes. You'll be able to see him tonight in the Fiesta Bowl against Ole Miss. Keep an eye on him. But those are some of the guys in that range. I'll also throw Damon Wilson out of Missouri, although I think he could come back for another year. We're still in that weird period where some of these guys might end up going back. So I'd keep an eye on those names.
Tony Romo fan 9 forever says, and this is for Vach.
You better not be asking about quarterback.
Can the Cowboys afford to take a safety and a linebacker in the first round, or does one of the picks have to be a premium position like corner or edge rusher when it falls where they may?
I mean, free agency matters first. You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to Tommy making that point and all that. But I just honestly think what's going to happen is they're going to take the best dude at 14, and 20 something is going to vary. I don't know if they're going to move back with 20 something or they're going to go the best cornerback available. I mentioned the last time we was on this show, for some reason cornerbacks that I like just fall into the 20s. So if Jamal McCoy from Tennessee because he's hurt or because he was hurt, or Mansour Delane.
What was that?
Wow.
Can we do that one more time?
Mansour Delane from LSU. If he ends up in the 20s,
why is he French?
Because he's from LSU. I just assumed that all Louisiana LSU names got some French to them.
Yeah, it is Southern Louisiana.
I understood Mansour. I didn't think it was necessary on Delane.
Delane.
Newsmaya.
I'll Google it and watch me be right.
Khalib Williams.
But yeah, man, all these.
It's Mansour Delane.
Brian Kelly.
Shouts out to the player. Even my man Brandon Sissi.
Lane Kiffin.
Who that is?
Lane Kiffin.
Oh. I'm from Mississippi, dog. We don't speak French.
Okay.
But I think there's going to be an opportunity to get some dudes later on, regardless. So I personally don't care about position value in that way. If you draft a safety first and a linebacker second, I don't care, dog. Just as long as they're dudes you can use.
How do you feel about it, Tommy?
I wouldn't mind Downs first if we're talking about safety.
Sure.
If Downs is one of those picks, then I'm fully with that. I think right now he's the best player that I've watched, and if he ends up there at the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised either. As far as corners, I'm with you on Delane, and I think he's really good. He's going to be up there. Jermod McCoy, this team has a history of drafting injured players, and McCoy hasn't played. What were you telling me last night?
There's newer tape on Ezekiel Elliott playing for the Cowboys, and there's of Jermod McCoy playing against anybody.
Man.
Wow, that's not good.
That's some good film though.
But he has.
It's
really
great.
Good
He's still 20 years. I mean, he just turned 20 years old next September.
The tape that he put out against Alabama not this past year, but the year before that, was really good. You see him running with Ryan Williams, who's one of the faster receivers in college football. Step for step, he's a good press man guy. If that's what the new defensive coordinator wants to bring into Dallas, again, the question would be, you need guys who can contribute now. I don't know if you would feel as good with a guy that's coming off another major knee injury and hasn't played since 2024.
You already have one.
I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. You need somebody who isn't that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I think there. And then just kind of a sleeper corner. I think he's steadily rising here in the college football playoff. Keontae Scott from Miami. He has played
I like that a lot.
Unbelievably well for the Hurricanes. Had a pick six against Ohio State last week in the Cotton Bowl. Just a really smart player, and he was injured for some of the year. He got back later in the year, and you saw how different things were for them defensively when he was back in their secondary. So that's another really good player.
I might make some people mad here. So phrase the question exactly as it was again, if you could.
Yeah, let me find it.
Could they afford to?
Can they afford to take a safety and linebacker in the first round, or do one of those picks have to be at a premium position? So it says safety and linebacker.
Given who might be there, I don't know that they can afford not to take those two. If it's Downs at 12 and it's CJ Allen at 20 or something like that,
they may be the best.
I don't. If you tell me they had nothing in free agency, literally they had nothing, they just re-sign everybody, whatever else. I don't think there's a combination of two players you can draft that will make the defense better.
Then you have Kenneth Murray. I don't think you would need CJ Allen.
I mean, look, he's going to be hot commodity wherever Flus lands.
That's going to be my bit. I think draft show.
But you have Kenneth Murray.
But look, I mean, that's the thing, is that to me it's that if you're just talking about, because you've got to look at edge rushers historically do not perform at a high level first
immediately.
Year.
Yeah.
Corners have a similar situation. And if you're talking about who are the higher level pro ready players, it seems like anyway, Allen, I think, at linebacker from Georgia, and then Caleb Downs at safety from Ohio State. Those two areas destroyed you last year in a lot of instances. So, I mean, obviously you would want to add more than that. I think I'd much rather at that point, if I was told I could get Downs at safety and Allen at linebacker, at that point I would rather add edge and corner in free agency.
Is that sort of a pipe dream, though, or is that realistic to look at? I know we're
Downs,
in January.
Downs, it just kind of depends. Like, safeties are so unpredictable at how the league is going to view them.
Yeah.
Allen, I think, absolutely could. Like, Allen's a good enough player, but because it's just kind of probably going to be middle of the road testing, and there are a couple linebackers and a couple other like high upside freaks that people see there at other positions, linebacker naturally kind of gets pushed down the board anyway at times, it feels like. I think that there are teams who would think like that and say, well, we'll get linebacker a little bit later. We'll look at Anthony Hill, or we'll look at like Jake Golday at, Cincinnati. We'll do that sort of thing. We don't need to take a CJ Allen here. And I would snatch him up then if he's there at that second pick.
If this team moves on from Donovan Wilson in free agency, I think that's a pretty good indication of what they would be hoping to get from Caleb Downs if he's there at 12. And if he's there at 12, I think it's a no-brainer. And that's a guy you can immediately plug and play in Donovan Wilson's spot, and he'll start day one and give you production.
Sticking with linebacker here, Hutch asks, where would you rank this year's linebacker class compared to the previous 3 or 4 years? And is there a linebacker in the class outside of C.J. Allen that would make an immediate impact for this Dallas defense?
I mean, it's obvious.
Better than last year's.
So it depends on how quickly some things can click. So, for instance, when we talk about Sonny Styles, like that's a younger player, but somebody who's a really nice athlete and shows nice instincts and can do some impressive things when playing back. I wonder, like Leighton Vander Esch was thought of when he was first drafted as like a little raw, a little toolsy. He's 4 years removed from playing 7-man football in Idaho or whatever it was. But it clicked right away. So it just would depend on how quickly Styles and Reese could come along. But Allen, to me, is the only one that right now you know where he is as a pro-ready player. You can get into day two a little bit, like we just mentioned at Cincinnati, Jake Golday. He reminded me a lot of the hell's the Arkansas linebacker from a couple years ago everybody was fighting about? Drew Sanders.
Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of Drew Sanders, where I think some teams may view him as like, okay, he could potentially edge rush. He could, maybe they just view him as a blitzer, but like really long, athletic linebacker, the way Leighton was too, coming out of Boise. So I think just some of the other linebackers, they have questions about how quickly they can turn that corner.
I think this is a deep linebacker class. Now, how many can contribute day one? That's probably a conversation we need to have maybe in like a month from now after Senior Bowl to see what these guys look like up close and in person, because the physical aspect is obviously a big part of that at the linebacker spot. But, man, when we're talking about day 2, day 3, there's going to be more guys in this class than we've talked about in previous classes. In previous classes, it's been like, okay, we're in the 5th round here. Shamar James, he's a good player. Let's swing here. Now I think you get in the 5th round, I'm like, man, that's a steal there in the 5th round. Like, wow. This makes sense to go ahead and grab this guy.
Kind of reminds me of how you viewed the running back class last year.
Yeah.
There's guys there.
It's not necessarily the same in numbers, because there was like, oh my gosh, there was like 30 guys that I think ended up getting drafted out of the running back class. Whereas like this one, I from the linebacker class, I think you'll see probably closer to like 23, but that's still really good from this linebacker class. And there's guys like Drake Bowen out of Notre Dame, Aiden Fisher out of Indiana, Lander Barton out of Utah. These are guys that have been consistent long-term starters for these groups for Power 4 programs and have been productive, and that could still potentially be there at the top of day 3.
Vach, you're real quiet when we're talking about these linebackers here.
No, man, because I'm thinking about my guy from last year, Carson Schlesinger. I don't like UCLA, and I don't like none of these characters more than him. But I'm processing what Nick was saying. Like, maybe some of the guys down the list are better than some of the guys down the list from last year.
You don't like C.J. Allen more than Carson Schlesinger?
I love Carson Schlesinger.
I know you love
Carson Schlesinger to pieces, and I do not like C.J. Allen more than Carson Schlesinger. Or our guy from the year before, Peyton
Wilson.
Peyton Wilson. Loved me some Peyton Wilson.
No knees.
No knees. I love me some Peyton, and I just don't see any of these guys better than them.
Where did you have Schlesinger last year?
Schlesinger was like he was a second, or like top of the second round, my second linebacker.
Okay, so you think Reese, Styles, all these guys, they're not top of the second round type players?
Well, every draft is different. So I do like Reese, I like Sonny, and I like CJ, but I'm just thinking about Schlesinger as a player versus these guys. Like right now, I think Schlesinger is better than what I'm getting from them.
So you're
right
not giving a first-round grade to any linebacker in this class? If you had Schlesinger at the top of the second round.
every draft is different, and I'm very phony too. Let me just say this. I'm also very phony. But I look at what Arvell Reese does differently than what Carson does. Or I think Carson is like ready to go right now. Sonny Styles probably got some growth. I don't like the players I got to put a bunch of work in. That's why I'm not a big Mykel Williams fan. Because Mykel needed a whole bunch of work and growth and coaching. I want to see what you got on film right this second. I just thought Carson Swester was a better right now linebacker than Sonny Styles. Sonny may be higher on my board at the end of the day because, yes, he can play now, but his ceiling could be much better than Carson. Like, he's a much better athlete than Carson. I think Carson was a much better processor than Sonny, like right this second, but hey, man, I'm phony. I'll change my mind, and by the time we get to April, I'll say something totally different.
You're allowed to change your mind in the draft process. That's part of how this goes.
I change my mind all the time. But I'm just thinking about what I felt from Carson as like a complete dude, I see it, and I'm snapping, and I'm getting there. Run game type guy. I'm seeing it behind me. I can blitz you a little bit. I'm making plays in the coverage and things like that, right? Like, I'm seeing all this kind of stuff. I don't see a good cover dude in C.J. Allen. I don't see I kind of wish Sonny was a little more physical sometimes. You know what I mean? I think Arvell is raw, but I'd love to have him because of his skill set. You know what I mean? So every one of these guys, just like we said about edge, they're not really like complete dudes. I don't think we got complete dudes at linebacker right now. I just thought Carson was very, very complete last year.
All right. Good questions across the board on Twitter on the 20. But you're a phony. When we come back on the draft show, we're going to talk about that secondary a little bit more in depth. Some of these corners, some of the safeties. You mentioned, what did you call him, Vach?
What did I say?
Delani. We're going to talk about him, some of the scouting reports at the cornerback spot and at the safety spot outside of the top names. When we return, more of the draft show right after this.
Cowboys fans, when it comes to navigating the ever-changing world of tax, your business needs a partner it can trust to tackle even your biggest tax challenges. Ryan is the largest firm in the world dedicated exclusively to business taxes. Our team of tax professionals has local expertise in all areas of tax and can help you uncover savings opportunities you didn't know you had. Learn more about how Ryan can improve your overall corporate tax performance by visiting Ryan.com. Ryan, the official tax partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
How about them Cowboys? And how about them Jimmy Dean breakfast bowls? Keep your game day celebrations going with real eggs, potatoes, cheese, and our savory Jimmy Dean sausage. And with 22 grams of protein per serving, you'll have enough energy to power you from early morning to the final whistle. The no-hassle, ready-in-minutes prep makes it easy. Just heat, eat, and cheer on those Cowboys. Get yours today. Jimmy Dean brand is proud to be the official protein of the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show, Cowboys Nation. Tom Gibson has been named your 2025 Cowboys Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan for his dedication to the team and for spicing up the game. Vote for Tom and be named the ultimate NFL Fan of the Year at NFL.com/Fan of the Year. Draft Show presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Back with Vach Lombardi, Nick Harris, Tommy Yarish, Bobby Belt with Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Yeomans. We got to edge rushers, got to linebackers. I want to go to corners here. Tommy, you talked about Mansour Delane and how you liked him out at LSU. What do you like about him, and what could he bring to the table?
Yeah, I think that, you won't find many better man-to-man corners. I know I talked a little bit about Jermod McCoy, but the injury is the question mark there. I think he's really good in press, mirrors his receiver well. one of those guys that is better as a north and south runner, I think, than he is covering the middle of the field. I know his size might bring up questions about, okay, do you bump him into the slot or not? I think he's going to be fine on the outside. He's okay in zone, but really good when the ball is in the air and in his area. He does everything possible to knock the ball away. He's an experienced player, transferred to LSU from Virginia Tech. And I think this was his best year. It seemed like every time LSU played, he would make plays for them. Rooms for improvement, just kind of running the ball and finishing plays in the run game. He's not going to wow anybody with his size, but he just kind of has a knack for playing the position. Played 3 years at Virginia Tech before transferring to LSU. And I watched a couple of games, but the Clemson one to open the year this past year was the one that stood out to me for Mansour Delane. I think he's going to be a really good player.
Super smart player too. Like he just kind of reads everything around him, just reads the eyes of the quarterback. He's very confident using his eyes and looking around. Right, great recovery. Arms and all this kind of stuff. I kind of want all these corners to tackle a little better. So I'm not gonna knock anybody for their tackling. I just want to praise like really good tacklers. I don't see any of these guys as really good tacklers, but I think people should be talking about Mansour Delane a little bit more. I think he could be one of those dudes that can go top 12 or so. You know what I'm saying? Now I personally think there's a weird thing going on with corners and that they go later. But if Mansour went like top 15, it makes a ton of sense to me.
Does he remind you of anybody?
I don't do player comps.
No, not a comp. But did anything go like, oh, that's similar?
Nope.
Terrion Arnold is who I saw.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really like Terrion Arnold.
Yeah.
And Arnold was a guy who I felt like we were talking about going like, could he go 10 or could he go 20? Or like, it just kind of depended on how much teams were worried about. You ran 4.5 at corner. Maybe you're a little more slightly built. I think it's going to be probably the same thing for Delane. If you just watch like the tape and see how he covers, he's so good. But it's just the physical traits don't really pop. But I mean, the route recognition, the instincts, the hip fluidity, I really like him. He reminds me a ton of Arnold, and I would have taken Terrion Arnold on this team. Now, I know Detroit, it's been a little bit of a struggle for them, but to me, I think Delane would make a ton of sense for the team if you are trying to find, when we talk about pro-ready players, that's somebody who I think can come in and cover right away and be a good player. So if you're going to tell me they're taking a corner to be pro-ready, he would be the closest one.
Bobby, let me ask you a question.
Yep.
I've kind of mentioned this a little bit, but you're like league guy, and you got friends in the league. You know what they talking about. Mm-hmm. How come in these years where we do have a number one corner that's like a number one corner, Terrion Arnold, or if you thought Kenyon Mitchell, like Jahdae Barron was like really high for me, Porter back in the day, we all loved him. How come these corners that we love, they end up going later? Why is that? Is that a league trend?
No, I think that if you've got, so there have been various corners that, what was it, a couple years ago where like Witherspoon went in the top 6.
Yeah, 5 or something.
And so I think that was a draft where there were a couple corners who went really, really high. Mm-hmm. Obviously we're just, 4 years removed or whatever from Surtain and Horn going in the top 10. I think it's just there have been reasons to ding some of them. And that'll be the case again this year. The top 2 we're talking about right there, Jermod McCoy has not played football in over a year, and there's been precious little in the way of like concrete updates about him. Mm-hmm. Mansour Delane is a guy who some people go like, size is average. He's going to be a 4.5 guy probably. It's not like overwhelming speed. And then in years past, like Terrion Arnold, similar player that we'd be talking about. Couple years back, Caleb Farley, really, really impressive, but injury questions, and how raw he was. And so I think it's just a lot of these corners they've all had some sort of flaw for the most part that makes teams go like, all right, well, there's too many questions there. Let's let him slide a little.
I love him.
Can I ask about Jermod McCoy? Tennessee missed all of 2025, got hurt, torn ACL January of 25. He was projected to be a first-round pick. He decides to rehab all year long, has not played, but by the time he takes the field next fall, or this upcoming fall, I guess now in 26, he's going to be, 15 months, 20 months removed from his injury before he gets back to full game tape. Is that still classified as a risk, taking an injured player? Not specifically for the Cowboys. I don't think he fits the bill that Dallas needs right now, somebody who hasn't played football in 2 years. But is that a higher risk because of the time off, or is it not as high of a risk because of the time?
Yeah, I mean, some COVID players who were not injured, they just sat out the year. Some of them were viewed as risks by people.
Chase.
Micah.
And so, I think that when you watch – look, if McCoy State from 24 was done in 2025, and he's a 20-year-old cornerback coming out with that tape in this draft class, he's going in the top 10, and nobody's asking about it. It's just we have seen across the NFL, too, I mean, Savon Revel, we'll see with him how he bounces back. But we've seen that some of those knee injuries with corners, it doesn't feel like there was a time where ACLs used to concern you. Then they reached a point where everybody's like, ACLs are just, they're part of life, and you get them repaired and everybody's good. Feels like there's kind of been like a turn back lately where there's questions about how quickly some players bounce back from ACLs. I specifically feel like at corner and at receiver and some of those cutting positions. And so I think that's just the thing, is that some people, they just, it's the unknown. You don't know how he bounced back from it.
And the thing with McCoy specifically is what pops out on tape is how good he is when he changes direction or when he's cutting and turning back to a receiver and making up ground. If you have questions about his ability to plant his foot and trust his knee to turn back to the ball and turn back to the receiver, then that's what makes it scary. And there's going to be no tape to give you any semblance to that. Maybe a pro day workout or something like that, you get to see it, but who knows what he's going to decide to do.
Tom having a great show today.
White House,
fantastic point. Go ahead.
White House, Texas native, by the way. Me and Jermon McCoy were born in the same hospital. Fun take. But with Jermon McCoy, I want to see him work in the pro day. I want to see him work at the combine. I need to see him this process. I'm sold. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The tape, I'm sold.
Yeah.
I need to see that knee is better.
Yeah,
it's the same questions I had about Revel last year. If y'all remember, I was like, man, I love the player. If it wasn't for the injury, first round, no doubt. But we haven't seen this guy, and that is not easy for a long, lengthy corner to come back from. That's why I had him 56 on my board, and I think it's ultimately why he's up to the third round.
That tape we're talking about, too, on McCoy, which it would feel like it'd be top 10 player right now. I mean, the last time he played football, he was 19 years and 3 months old. Like, he was a teenager when he put that tape out there.
Versus Ohio State and them, like, and it's big games.
He's really, really impressive. The question is just like, is that the guy? You can assume or you can have these, but it's enough of a question that just makes you say, do I want to take a top 10 to 15 capital risk on somebody that I don't know, or I'm trying to project out how they look athletically?
I want to go back to the fact that Nick knew what hospital he was born in. Is that just because there's only one hospital out there, or did you go back in terms of was there like on a bio somewhere?
So Jermon McCoy grew up with my little cousins, and so know the McCoys. I don't know the McCoys well, but my family knows
Your family knows them. Okay, the McCoy family. Speaking of guys that could be freaks, let's just talk about the cornerback spots. Some of these guys that we're going to see in the playoffs, especially Seattle. I mean, guys like Devin Witherspoon was fantastic. You had Reek the Freak, who played on that secondary for a long time, who was just testing off the charts at the secondary spot. Where's the number one guy on your list that is going to be a good tester at the cornerback spot? Because I'm looking down my list. I see a lot of 6 foot. I see a lot of 5'11". I see a lot of 4.5 speed, 4.4 speed. The first guy I look at is a guy like Dalen Everett from Georgia.
Yeah.
A guy with 6'1", 200 pounds, 4.35 type speed. I mean, is he the number one, let's just call him a freak at the secondary spot?
Dalen Everett's he's one that I know tested well during his recruitment process, and that's where I'm kind of calling back to some of these guys, because that's the only verified numbers.
That's what we got right now.
These guys.
Yeah.
I think back to Chandler Rivers out of Duke as well. He's a Beaumont area guy. He was a guy that tested well. Keith Abney out of Arizona State. He was a track guy at Waxahachie in South DFW. You were talking about you don't have any corners that you really love from a tackling perspective in this class. Go check out Keith Abney. Oh, wow. He can lay a hat. I think he's got nickel versatility as well, and probably better as a nickel at the next level. But the testing aspect, that's going to be a big question with a lot of these guys. But once they start getting involved with exos and some of these pre-draft processes, we're going to get a good idea of who's going to show out at the combine, and that's going to be a big question, no doubt.
How do you feel about this secondary class, Vach? Just as in general, corners, safety, whatever it may be. How do you feel like you're landing in the early portions of the process?
Basically where I'm at, and we're just talking about early. We just talking about the first round or something like that. Yeah. I think I'm not looking at a whole bunch of safeties like, all right, I got to have a safety. It's either Caleb Downs or, all right, let me go look somewhere else. That's kind of where I'm at with that. I think it's a bunch of corners. I think it's a ton of corners. Brandon Cisse. Is that
Cisse is going to test well.
Cisse?
Yeah.
I like him a bunch.
Brandon Cisse may be one of the ones that like pops as a
out of South Carolina, by the way.
South Carolina, by the way. He's like the fifth or so guy that I've watched or whatever. And I'm just like, yo, he's pressing people on the sideline. He's running around. He's looking good. He's tall. And he's still kind of raw. And he's making plays and all this kind of stuff. Colton Hood, Tennessee, I like him a lot, breaking on passes. Physical as well. Avion Terrell, probably going to be like a nickel type guy in my personal opinion. Y'all may like him as an outside dude. So
Terrell out of Clemson.
Clemson. Pardon me. Thank you so much.
I got you,
Uncle Kyle. It's just so much. It's just so much cornerback like. It's just names that I like just so early in my draft film evaluation process right now. It's just like, all right, if it's continuing to trend in this way, and Nick just gave me a name, Keith Abney, that I haven't watched. I'm just watching PFF right here. He's the 40th overall dude. So I'll be watching him next. So if it's another great dude that's in this range, maybe it's a whole 2 days worth of good corners we can be looking at. But we ain't got them picks up.
There's a comment here on the YouTube chat, and I'm curious of y'all's opinion on this. If Malagoa goes at 12 and then Jeremiah McCoy at like 19 or 20, we would have a lot of fans upset, but I think there is a potential there to have a lot of fun with that.
Malagoa where?
Francis Malagoa, right tackle out of Miami.
Like if they went here in Dallas, is what you're saying?
So you take an offensive tackle.
I love
first pick
and somebody who didn't play last year.
We would be dealing with a lot of.
I love the player.
Questions from fans.
There would be some pushback for sure.
A lot.
That would be if, like, because when we were listening to the end of season press conference yesterday, Stephen Jones was talking about, like, hey, we're going to stack the board the same. We're going to pick the same. And, you know, if there's a guy higher on the board, they're going. The comparison was, if CeeDee Lamb is there, we're going to take CeeDee Lamb. I don't know if Francis Mariano is CeeDee Lamb, but if they've got guys that are kind of similar stacked against one another, I wouldn't be shocked if they took an offensive lineman in this year's class.
I asked those two questions back to back just to see him say we're not going to change anything in our draft process. I figured that would be the answer. And I asked it again, hoping there would be some level of change with the 2 first-round picks. Good. Oh, we're gonna really dive in on how we're gonna stack it in a more definitive way. And the answer he gave was just kind of, it's business as usual. And so that's, at least until we hear otherwise from somebody else in that front office or from Will McClay, that's what we can expect. Yeah. It's business as usual. If it's stacked, you're going to still look at position of need over where these guys are going to be stacked.
Damn Cowboys better not draft Francis Mariano and put him next to Tyler Booker. Y'all crazy. Beat the hell out of everybody on the inside. You crazy.
So you like that idea?
I love Francis Mariano, and I love offensive linemen. I'm
supposed to be a defensive show.
So somebody brought his name up. I didn't bring his name up. I'm just telling you, I like the idea of draft a tackle.
I love him.
You did. Tell me about him. Let's go for
He's
it.
He's a mauler, especially in the run game. And he's a guy that is developed under who I think is the best offensive line coach in the country, and Alex Mirabal at Miami. He's just a mauler. I love him in the run game. Pass pro, there's probably going to be some things he's going to have to pick up, but it's very similar to how I view Booker from last year. Whereas like Booker was just this mauler in the run game, but like there was still some footwork stuff with Booker early in his time at Alabama that it wasn't as higher on the trajectory of getting better as it was with his run game. It's very similar to Francis here. There's going to have to be some footwork things cleaned up here at the next level, but I think this is a day one starter at right tackle, no doubt, and would be an upgrade over Terrence Steele today.
And then you could keep Guyton at left tackle and kind of hope he's the case for the future. It's different.
And then you would still not stop anybody on defense next year.
That's the thought.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now you have a decision to make. You can either draft a left tackle and move Tyler Guyton back to right tackle where he played at Oklahoma, or you can draft a right tackle and hope that Tyler Guyton is available. Because when he was available, he played okay football.
Or you just run
above average football. You said what?
You just run it back with the crew that you didn't get an opportunity to play with most of your guys were big.
Could Francis give you 1.5 points per game more next year?
Francis can't get me a stop more per game.
Well, that's not what I'm asking.
A stop more per game would have given me 5 more wins.
A 1.5 would have maybe given you 2 or 3. No, you're right, and I'm 100% in the camp.
Now he goes
for the record, I'm 100% in the camp of taking 2 defensive players here, especially if both of those guys make sense in those spots. I wouldn't try to window dress it on you, but I would almost force some picks here. If you have Francis versus C.J. Allen there, I would probably have Francis higher on my board, and people are going to hate me for this. I would take a C.J. Allen because that's where you need it.
If you're telling me they're going to go through in free agency and they're going to get me like 5 starters on defense through free agency, then all right, fine, we can talk about Malagoa, but I don't anticipate they're going to do that. And so instead, it's just like you got to find people who can play now on the defensive side of the ball and make an impact.
Where would you want to add in free agency to allow you the freedom to do all that? Because we talked about it a little off air earlier.
To be able to draft an offensive lineman in the first round, what would I need them to get in free agency?
Yes. Everything on
3 edge rushers, 2 linebackers, a safety, and a corner.
Just go after.
I'm dead serious. 3 edge rushers, 2 linebackers, a corner, and a safety.
In order to even open the door.
Before I'd even talk about it. Yep.
Wow.
They got a lot of holes. This was the historically worst defense in NFL history when it comes to points per drive. 2.88 points per drive. Crazy. There's nobody that's been worse in the history of the NFL.
2 linebackers, Kenneth Murray and Jalen Smith.
There you go.
Hey man.
Let's get Peyton Wilson too. Get 3 guys who don't have
trying to
knees.
piss people off today.
You're being an all-time hater.
Yeah, rage baiter, Nick Harris.
I am rage baiting.
What would it take for you, Tommy? Something similar?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know if I'd go 3 edge rushers, but probably it depends. Clowney is the big one for me. If he comes back, then yeah, probably 2.
No, so that's it. So Clowney and 2. I'm assuming guys who are currently free agents, you could re-sign guys with talent.
I got you. Yeah, then I would probably want 1 or 2 more pass rushers. Certainly a linebacker or 2. Definitely a veteran corner, and then safety. That's the one where, like Nick or whoever was saying earlier, if they let go Donovan Wilson, I think that might be a sign of like, hey, if we can get downs, or if they like some of the other guys in this class, because I think there are other guys out there you can maybe get later too. Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, Emmanuel McNear-McWarren is the annual Toledo defensive back that's going to be really good in the NFL. Kamari Ramsey from USC. So there are guys out there that you can get at safety, and it just kind of depends. Is that where you want to spend your capital here in this draft? Because again, you don't have a day 2 pick. Are you willing to wait until day 3?
It's early, but I'm afraid in this draft, if you want a safety, you need to go get one early.
Yep.
It's early. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's January, but I'm afraid if you need one, you better be ready to take him on day 2.
So if you pair that with what Vach talked about earlier and saying it's blanking on
Cisse.
Downs. It's Caleb Downs, and then a drop off immediately.
I would say, yeah.
You might as well just go get Caleb Downs at 12.
If Caleb Downs is there at 12, I am running butt naked the card.
Bet. Sounds good.
I am running the card to the table.
Okay. We can figure out a bet there somewhere.
No,
we can make that happen.
Not. No, but that's how.
And both of you, I know Nick
Caleb
and
Downs.
Tommy yesterday or Tuesday, you guys talked about you don't believe he's even going to be close to 12.
I don't think so. I think somebody. You'd think again. I'm going to point to my good friend Vach over here.
Sure do.
Teams don't know how to draft.
They sure do.
But I think somebody's going to be smart enough to realize this guy can really change a defense on the back end.
All right. When we come back on Tuesday, we're going to talk a little bit more offense. We're going to talk some of the offensive linemen. We're going to talk about the draft because it's not always about Cowboys. It's not always about what Dallas is going to do. We pride ourselves in just outlining what the draft looks like as a whole because when we get into it, plus I want somebody at home, maybe one of the listeners that's good with graphic design, I want somebody to make a checklist of what Bobby just outlined.
How
what was
graphic?
It? Three defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and what was it in the secondary?
3 edge, 2 linebackers, a safety, and a corner.
Safety
minimum.
and corner. So give me the check boxes, and we're going to keep up with it as time goes on. If they bring all those guys back, then we can talk about offensive line for Dallas in the first round.
I'm drafting the offensive lineman. I'll draft Jeremiah Love. I don't care nothing about this checklist. I'll take the best dude and live happily.
Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame running back.
Notre Dame running back.
He's a badass. He is super fun.
I think better than Genty. Because I say no, and I don't think he's better than Bijan. I don't think he's better than Jahmyr Gibbs.
That's why we can get him at 20. That's why we can get him at 20.
Is he better than Amarian Hampton?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't think so.
I think he's right in that mix. He's not better than the first names you mentioned.
Every draft is different.
Every draft is different.
Every draft is definitely different. All right, that does it for us here on the Draft Show. Hope you had fun with our first week of episodes. We'll be back on Tuesday, 11 a.m. Central Time. For Vach Lombardi, Nick Harris, Tommy Arish, Bobby Bell, Chris Beam in the back, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from the Draft Show. We'll see you Tuesday.
Hey.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. How about this?